promised, here's my video diving deeper into the solar eclipse in Aries that is happening on April 8th. This is quite possibly one of the biggest events of 2024. I consider eclipses to be some of the most important transits of the year. I do not pay attention to things such as Mercury Gatorade as much or Pluto transits, though they are important because eclipses affect us personally and they change our collective consciousness because they have been correlating with the North and South node. This is a evolutionary process for us. And not only does it help us find our right path, but by us all doing so collectively, we are raising the collective vibration. So welcome back to the Be the Hero channel. I'm Isabelle, and I help you understand the stars so you can feel more clarity and control over your day. Now, before I dive into this video that covers everything you need to know about the solar eclipse, one, make sure you've watched my video on the lunar eclipse in this spring eclipse season, and book a reading in the link in the description below where we dive deep not only into your chart, but how it affects you this eclipse season. I'm also starting to offer personalized 20-minute horoscopes, which are videos that get sent directly to your email on the first of every month. However, you cannot purchase one of these horoscopes until we've done a reading because the goal of these is so that they are personalized to you, your life struggles, your desires, your past story, your future that you're aiming towards. This is not just a horoscope based off of your sun, moon, and rising, or just one of these. It is personalized to your unique birth chart. So if you want to do one of those or get one of those for the upcoming month, then book a reading first, and then we can talk more about your horoscope. So this eclipse is very powerful. I'm sure by watching this video, you're already feeling the energy. You feel like things are moving really fast and things are changing rapidly. Very true to Aries energy. And this feels very much more instinctual than the eclipse we had in March. So to preface this and to understand what you're going to get in this video, I'm going to dive deep into what the eclipse is, what this eclipse in Aries means, how it interacts with the North Node, tying in the lunar eclipse we had on April 25th, and also tying in our previous eclipse seasons, because this Aries eclipse is so insanely powerful because we had a solar eclipse in Aries last April, and we have not yet gotten to finish up that cycle. And so this is bringing back a previous energy from a year ago that we only got a taste of. And so we have a very interesting cycle going on between the overlap of these Taurus Scorpio eclipses, the Libra Aries eclipses, and the future Pisces Virgo eclipses that are making it so that we can probably feel that even more stepping into Aries energy is hard. Even for those of us who have strong Aries energy, we can feel that we don't quite understand or see the full picture of how we're supposed to embrace this archetype. So in this video, I'm going to go through and talk about what the different planets are that are interacting with this eclipse, as well as overview what the eclipse itself is. So first, for those who don't know, what is an eclipse? An eclipse, astrological, English, it's early. You can probably tell because my eyes are puffy, hence the coffee. But an eclipse, astrologically, is representative of a key point in our hero's journey. So imagine your life as a book. The book is your story, your hero's journey, your hero's story. And eclipses are key chapters or parts in your story where you learn valuable lessons. It's not maybe the overall arching goal or the overall story or growth, but it is key points of growth that aid you in achieving your whole story. And so as the eclipses change through signs, we're here to learn different things. So the North Node is a huge part in this eclipse. or in all eclipses. I'm pretty sure that the eclipses always fall in alignment with the north nodes and south nodes, because the north and south node are points on the lunar orbit, which mean probably totality. So whatever the eclipses are in, usually the north node tends to be there, but not always. They just tend to. So my brain's a little unclear this morning, but we're going to work through it and hopefully I'll find more clarity. Basically, eclipses are key points in your hero's story. And it is something important for you to learn. And it's important to note whether the north or south node is here. In 2022, we had the eclipses in Taurus and Scorpio, and the north and south node were here as well. North node Taurus, south node Scorpio. You probably felt like mainly 2022, a little bit of 2021, and 2023 was about you learning to be more independent, but not even so much for the sake of doing things on your own, but feeling that you're strong in your sense of self-worth standing alone. You probably realize that you are codependent in some ways on people financially, seeking a sense of intimacy, merging your sense of self-identity with others. You wanted more sense of grounding in yourself and working through overthinking. Now, with the eclipses in Libra and Aries, and the north node being in Aries and south node in Libra, we are again on that focus of codependency and moving towards independence, but more so from a more materialistic sense. Instead of the previous year's focus was more so on our mentality around our interactions, this is so much more about being able to physically be on our own. And this is a very interesting dynamic for us to learn, because this is Aries we're talking about. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and it represents the moment we are initiated into the world. We stand alone and we feel invincible, frankly, because we have no idea. We're the fool. We have no knowledge of how the world works. We just simply know we must be resilient. And so resilience is what we manifest. However, in society nowadays, this is a very powerful eclipse season to be in, because opposite of Aries is Libra, and that's where the south node is. And we have been taught as a society, as we've become more comfortable and provided ourselves material security and have learned through living that we can provide comfort, and now we live for others. We've gone to this massive point societally where instead of constantly thinking, what do I desire? What can I try that's new? We avoid doing things that are new, because to do something new is dangerous, and we constantly seek others' approval. Libra is the archetype of peace and diplomacy, but it also seeks validation in the negative. Hence why the south node is here. Whatever sign the south node is currently in brings out its negative qualities within everyone. So Libra in the negative is very, lets people push them around. They want to be liked by everyone, they seek approval from everyone, and they can't be just authentic because they're so good at chameleonizing themselves to match the shade of those around them, to vibe with those around them. And so this is a quality that is brought out within us all, and you may have felt this realization coming to light around the 25th of March of 2024. We've had a lunar eclipse in Libra this March, and this really brought to light what our unconscious or unhealthy desires for connection are, how we are being too diplomatic. You may have been cutting off relationships or giving yourself space, or realizing just simply how you seek approval. And if you want more information on the lunar eclipse specifically, like I said, watch my video, which I will pin right here on it says spring 2024 eclipse season, but it talks a lot about the lunar eclipse. But these two are tied together because we have eclipse season, which is generally, they say the effects last 6 months long, but the eclipse season is about 35 days. A lunar eclipse is an extremified full moon. Solar eclipse is an extremified new moon. And so we had our full moon in Libra, extremified, known as a lunar eclipse, on March 25th of 2024. And this was during, of course, Aries season, opposing signs, moon in Libra, sun in Aries, making a extremified lunar eclipse. And then this merges into Aries energy, because we're going from one full moon into a new moon, lunar eclipse into solar eclipse. And this solar eclipse, as I've read, is more powerful, not only because it's in Aries, which is an initiator, and because the North Node is here, but because it's closer to the exact degree, or something like that. Let's skip over that fact, because I don't have my facts straight for that, and I don't like giving any information that is not clear. So, this eclipse portal has been open since about... Technically, the eclipse season can be felt the entire month. So basically, since we had our, let's see, if it was a full moon in Libra, then we had a new moon in Pisces in early March. I think that was around March 9th or 7th. So once we left that full moon period, basically since the beginning of March, we could be feeling this energy building, and then we're gonna feel the energy waning until we have the Scorpio full moon on... Scorpio full moon, trying to find my note on that, on the 20th of April. So we're still going to be feeling this energy, but these are the two key points on March 25th and April 8th. Some quick, before I dive even further into transits and stuff happening with the eclipse, people often ask what to expect during eclipses. It is said that there is not only their key points in our hero's journey, but destined events may happen, such as meeting someone or cutting something off, ending something, beginnings, massive catalysts of change. So people say marriages, divorces, breakups, meeting someone, job opportunities. This isn't just about love life. This is about all areas of life. So you may be even having just key realizations right now. You may be booking something or purchasing something important. However, it is up to you to just, or not up to you. There's nothing to fear. This shows up differently for everyone. It may just simply be a thought. It depends on what's going on in your reality right now. Whatever shows up, the key point of eclipses is the change in our mentality, because that is a key point of the North and South Node. As much as I say that this North Node in Aries, South Node Libra puts a more materialistic approach to how we need to change our life, there's also in the end still with the North Node, the focus is on the mentality shift. We are here to learn how to embrace all the different zodiac signs in order to be a balanced human being and understand the full spectrum of reality. But while there's a physical approach to everything, there's also the mental side. Ooh, my nose. So you can expect very important events during this time, but it may just be a mental shift. So going back to what I said is important about this eclipse, and let's just actually go before that more into what this eclipse is really about. As I've mentioned in my April video and in my spring eclipse season video, this is a very powerful moment because Aries, as the first sign of the zodiac, initiator of something new, is bringing something new to the table. And Aries is a very embraced, I don't know if that's a word, has become very negatively embraced in society, as we have this very extreme spectrum between Libra and Aries. Can't talk about Aries without bringing in Libra. We're basically in this point, all of us, where we swing between codependence to hyper-independence, and we haven't learned a sense of truly feeling that we can stand alone without needing anything, because it hurts. And so we have learned that in order to embrace independence, it has to be hyper-independence and pushing people away out of fear of being hurt, rather than doing it from a healed space. So Aries, this eclipse, is with the North Node, and that means that this is going to be a key point in our growth for us. Whereas the lunar eclipse was about realizing our shadows, this is stepping into our growth. We are doing something, changing a thought, doing a new action, quitting a job, doing something new, in order to step into our growth during this time, which is independence and embracing failure, frankly. This is something I've been bringing up in my videos a lot recently, is that Aries, as the Fool, knows that they're going to mess up because they don't know any better. And Libra, which is, Libra is Latin, or Latin roots for book. They want all the knowledge. They want to gather the data and maybe not even make a decision. Hence why they are polar opposites. Aries just takes action. But this is then a focus for us on just doing things, just taking the action, doing the things, embracing our manipura, which has become in our society very drained and unfulfilled. Our solar plexus chakra is asking and calling us all to do what's in alignment, even if it's hard and even if it feels like it'll hurt, because we know that in the long run, it's better to live a life of moments of momentary pain rather than a life of eternal discomfort and soul suffering. And so in this, not only with the North Node here is this our growth, but this can bring material gain as well, because the North Node represents, in Vedic astrology, the head of a dragon, and it's said to be our material gain, whereas the South Node is spiritual gain. And this is how the South Node plays in, because by healing Libra tendencies during this time, we can find more spiritual fulfillment. And now we're being called to focus on doing the actual work in our reality. So this solar eclipse in Aries, you may be feeling called to finally put the foot down and say, you know what? Okay, I'm done with this, or I need to do something different. We're all feeling this stronger sense of desire for independence during this time. And this is something that we must still have some awareness of, because while this generally solar eclipse is supposed to be positive, it's all about growth, and growth can be uncomfortable. So you may be having to be assertive without being aggressive. And this is what I was talking about with how we've misembraced Aries energy in society. We see that aggression is assertion and assertion is aggression, when really they're two different things. As I was talking about Libra having positive and negative vibration or qualities, so does Aries, so does every zodiac sign. And so the negative sides of Aries is aggressive, blunt, isolating, hyper-independent, rude, frankly, impulsive. Impulsive can be sometimes a good trait, but in the wrong way, oftentimes. So the positive traits of Aries that we're looking to embrace are independence, assertion, following our heart's desire, doing things fearlessly, and not being afraid to be the fool. So another powerful, I keep saying powerful, but it's true. Another key factor in this eclipse is that the sun, which is part of the eclipse, is conjunct Chiron, which means that, frankly, this is going to be a very healing new moon, solar eclipse. And so Chiron is the wounded healer. Wherever it transits currently represents what we're all kind of learning to heal in ourselves. And Chiron's been in Aries for quite some time, and this has been making us all kind of realize how our relationship with anger, and this is again that key point that we've embraced Aries in such a negative fashion, or have been so out of touch with it. We all probably know someone who really represents the worst qualities of aggression, and this is in the worst qualities of Aries, which is aggression. And so we've moved away from this energy. And so with Chiron being here with this solar eclipse, we can find that we're doing a lot of healing work right now with our relationship with anger. Maybe even realizing how we're vulnerable to anger, or realizing our own aggression and impulse, healing it, working through it, talking about it. Because not only is Chiron here, but we also have Mercury. Mercury is in retrograde, and if you want to learn more about that, see my video with my April predictions. But with Mercury retrograde in Aries here, we're probably having to revisit a conversation with someone, depending on what house Aries is for you in your chart will indicate where in life you're going to have to talk with someone. If you're an Aries, self-talk. If you're a Capricorn, it's going to be talk with family. Check for your sun and rising. But with Mercury here, we're talking about these wounds, talking about our aggressions, processing them, digesting them, revisiting things that maybe triggered us. I hate saying the word triggered. It seems so over-glorified, but things that really made us uncomfortable. So this is a lot of healing. I see it as this Aries eclipse. And then this again ties back to our eclipse we had in Aries, a solar eclipse on April 20th of 2023. So instead of having a Taurus eclipse to go with the Scorpio eclipse, we had an Aries one, which kind of brought the first taste of this energy. However, the North Node was not here yet, so we may have gone about embracing independence in the wrong way, or maybe even being aggressive. So think back to April 20th, around the end of April of 2023. What was going on in your life then? What kind of thoughts were you thinking? Were you trying to assert more independence? Were you were you pushing people away? Is there a feeling you were looking for and you didn't know how to attain it? Now you should have more clarity on that, because the North Node is now here and Chiron is here and Mercury is here. Mercury in retrograde is bringing you back to revisit those old ideas. You can probably easier remember those past memories. Chiron is here to help you remember the wounds, to heal them. And also, Chiron is the wounded healer. So you may find that by helping other people work through their own wounds of aggression and independence during this time, you find clarity yourself. Because Chiron, as a wounded healer, is better at healing those with the wound rather than healing the self. And that is what Chiron represents. Different in the chart, but for the current transit, still the same concept. I don't know if I've said this yet, but we do have, as I said, Mercury here, Chiron here, the sun and the moon. We also have 2 more planets, and those are Venus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I already said 5. We also have Venus here, is the point. We have 6 planets and points in Aries right now, which is making this so extremified, because while we had the Libra eclipse, not many planets were here. So the solar eclipse in Aries right now has so many planets here, making it really powerful. All the focus is on the Aries archetype. With Venus here, we're doing healing with our relationship values, our love values, and what gives us a sense of love for life. Venus is not just romance, it is also our values. It shows us what makes us live a life we love. And so with Venus here in Aries, which just recently entered Aries, I believe on the 5th or the 3rd of the month, one of the two. I'm pretty sure the 5th. Let's see if I can find that information really quick. Yeah, 5th. I'm so good, I know. So with Venus here, at the start of the direct new moon shadow phase, we're focusing on what we value. We're wanting to live a life we love more, which probably means for us doing new things, being more independent, maybe even telling people to leave us alone. I could say that in French, but then I have YouTube censor me. But we're trying to basically tell people to step off, possibly. And this makes it so that with Venus here, this can put a little bit of calming energy on all this need to talk and work through it right now. Because while this is Aries energy that's calling us to heal and do something different, we may be just wanting to do it all now. Aries is impulse. They learn by doing. And so, which is especially true for Mercury in Aries. And so we may feel that we no longer want to think about what the best course of action is, and instead just do it. So with all these planets here, with Venus here, we're being called to reshift our values, specifically around our love life potentially. Very true if you're a Libra. This is all happening in your 7th house, your opposite house. Or for Sagittarius, which Aries is the 5th house. Everyone in general, but mainly love life for Libra and Sagittarius, sun and rising, possibly even Aries. But we're being called to shift something in our life. We're needing to specifically shift how we feel standing alone in the world. And while we have all these planets here, we also have a conjunction between Saturn and Mars in Pisces during this time, which can also mean that this is a lot about our energetic boundaries. This is, like I said, it's about us tangibly doing something. We need to tangibly change something in our lives, but we also need to do so for the sake of our feelings. Aries does everything from the heart. And that is the core of what this solar eclipse is about, is relearning to get in touch with the heart and act in alignment with the heart. And this conjunction between Pisces and Saturn may give us a stronger sense of emotional responsibility for ourselves during this time, which can be a great help. It can help us slow down, tune in, recognize the self, and act in alignment with what feels right. It may make us feel a little less passionate than we expect to be, but overall, I would say this is a good thing because this is a lot about healing. As opposed to last year's eclipse, this eclipse seems extremely about healing because of Chiron, Mercury retrograde, the conjunction between Mars and Saturn in Pisces, and the North Node being here. Just gonna check my notes, see what else I can touch on. I will probably come back to this video and do a horoscope for each of these. So while this may be bringing realizations up, this is a new moon, a start of a new change. So you may not be feeling like you're coming to conclusions. You're just more so saying, I'm gonna start here. And that's part of Aries, is massive imperfect action. But this is not the last Aries eclipse we'll have. The last Aries eclipse we'll have is in September, we normally would have an eclipse in September in Aries, but instead it's gonna be in Pisces, which may make us feel like we're waiting for a change during that time in fall, and it doesn't come. Instead, our last eclipse will be in Aries on March 29th of 2025. So it will take until March 29th of 2025 for you to have probably a full journey completed around how you're going to be independent, how you're going to assert yourself, how you're going to follow your heart in this world. And it may even feel very much like a rebirth because Aries is the first sign to be born into the world. They represent the birth into the world, the material world. You're probably very much shifting during this time how you want to be in the world. And while this last eclipse is going to be in March, end of March of 2025, we will have the North Node leaving Aries in January of 2025, which again brings another culmination to this experience. Overall, this is going to be a huge stepping stone. It's just not going to be the final step. So think about what you want to initiate during this time. What do you want to change in your reality? And if you don't know what that is, think about what you don't want anymore. But try not to put too much attention on it, because the more vibrationally you put attention on what you don't want, you're attracting it to you. Think about what it is you don't want to then know what you do want. Whether that is a physical change, whether that is a stronger sense of independence, whether that's just feeling like you're stepping in more into your heart. What does it mean for you to follow your heart more? So I will probably come back to this video and add a section on the horoscopes for each sign. But in case I don't, let me know if you have any other questions in the comments below, and be sure to book a reading from my heart to yours. Namaste, y'all. Okay, I'm finally back to film about the horoscopes for the solar eclipse in Aries on April 8th of 2024, horoscopes for the solar eclipse. So if you're an Aries sun or rising, and as a side note, I recommend you check for your sun and your rising, not necessarily your moon though. The sun is how you're going to look back and say this affected you, and your rising is more so what will seem present in your everyday life. And I just realized that I still have notifications on, and I want to make sure that no one interrupts the video, so fix that. So yeah, rising is the short term, how it'll seem like it's affecting you in the 7-day period, which is starting now as I am filming this on April 5th. And sun is how you're going to look back and say, this is what changed in my life overall. So if you're an Aries sun or rising, this is a really big moment for you, a huge shift in identity, a huge shift in really though, how you want to show up in the world. This is for you. It puts you center stage, first and foremost, just given the fact that the North Node is here, the sun's here, and the moon, Venus, Mercury, all of them. You are in the spotlight. You're not only doing huge identity shifts, you're not just changing how you show up in the world, but in turn, this changes how you show up in your relationships. This is changing your expectations around relationships and how you want to be in the world and amongst others. But first, you must be able to decide how you want to be with yourself. So asking yourself, what are my expectations of myself? What do I want myself to live up to? What kind of life do I want to live are going to be key factors for you during this time. You may feel a little extra contemplative just because we have Mars in Pisces conjunct Saturn. And so you may find that you have to actually do disciplined work to go deeper into your psyche, recognize your unconscious fears. Your dreams could be extra vivid during this time. There's a lot going on in the subconscious that you have the power to overcome during this time. This is huge mental shifts for you, huge belief shifts. I know for me as an Aries right now, I can really feel the shifts in my beliefs, being able to overcome the primal belief that I'm not safe if I'm by myself, and make it so that I can be more independent in the world. Truly aligned with what is going on with the eclipse energy. So you may be experiencing similar themes, learning to stand alone without needing support, building your own roots by going deeper and uncovering those beliefs that underlie. And again, Mercury's here, so you may have to reflect or revisit a conversation you had about your self-identity, or revisit thoughts you've had about your identity. Ask yourself what was going on in your life around April 20th of 2023. What kind of individuality were you trying to assert in the world? What kind of life were you trying to live? And how has that changed? Have you achieved that? And think about as well what was going on in March, end of March of this year, and what kind of things you're trying to let go of and why. Why were you letting go of these things? Because in the end, we release things to make room for other things, whether that's just simply peace or a new relationship or solitude, it doesn't matter. But there's a reason you released it, so think about that. If you have, and I'm gonna do a little arm wave here because then it's easier for me to pick up on, to make the timestamps for. If you have, let's do Taurus, sun or rising. This has a lot to do with, like I said, for Aries, but even more so, going deep into your psyche. The North and South node are in your 12th and 6th house for you. And so you're doing a big journey around just making time to go deeper. Since June or July of last year, you've been focused on doing more inner work rather than adding more tasks to your schedule. And so you can find yourself during this time being able to easier access your unconscious mind. And what I mean by that is really recognizing your beliefs and breaking them. You may notice you have a lot of unconscious fears, maybe even unconscious fears about facing your unconscious fears. To you, the depths of your mind can feel like some ominous shadow that you don't want to turn the light on, turn the light to, because you're afraid of what you might find. But this Aries eclipse gives you the strength to actually go deeper and recognize the thoughts that are behind all your actions, and maybe even your thoughts around your independence and what you do in the world and how you do things. You, as a Taurus, are naturally, whether you're sun or rising, a bit stubborn. You like to go after your goals, or go after what you desire, whether that is just a day in or something bigger. And so this Aries eclipse can be a great time for you to contemplate and reflect and realize where you are holding yourself back, and the why behind why you're holding yourself back. The beliefs. This is a huge turning point for you around reflecting on your mind, seeing your inner beliefs, seeing your thought process, especially because Mercury is here. So think about maybe too as well what was happening for you last April, end of April in 2023. Were you recognizing other beliefs? Revisit any journals that you had maybe written in during this time, or any sort of contemplation you did. What themes from then are showing up again? Is there old fears being triggered? Are you feeling the same? Maybe there's something more there. Go deeper with yourself during this time. Have the courage to go deeper, and you can heal some huge wounds and shift what your values are about life. After all, your ruler Venus is here, which is affecting you a lot, and it's putting you out of your box to make sure you're being more bold with your actions in order to live a life you love. And then as well, think about what kind of habits you were releasing during the lunar eclipse this March of 2024. What were you eliminating in your life and why? What tasks were no longer serving you? What was your health in the whole? You may have health issues showing up during this eclipse season, and ask yourself this. What if every health problem is really just an emotional, mental problem in the end? Because the mind does govern the body, and if it's constantly told there is stress, then it's going to make the body stressed. After all, disease is just dis-ease. So contemplate if that's true. What is showing up in your physical body, and how could there be a mental, emotional root that is deeper? If you are a Gemini, sun or rising, then now's the time for you to really recognize those dreams. It's really windy out. Recognize those dreams that you have been too afraid to reach for. You may feel like you're naturally good at just chasing the butterflies, doing what feels good in the moment, but you find there's a lack of fulfillment. And now's the time for you to recognize a deeper sense of purpose than ever before and pursue something greater. Something that maybe does change the world. Maybe you think it'll change the world, maybe it won't, but it gives you a sense of purpose. You may also be connecting with a bigger friend group during this time, meeting a new community, meeting connections that connect you to a greater community that will play a huge role in your growth. This is happening in a fire sign for you, so this is it's a little more intense than you're normally used to, but overall this feels like a friendly energy. And you may feel that you are also shifting your ideas around career, given that we have Saturn and Mars in Pisces here. So you're probably thinking about changing your career. My advice to you would be career and purpose are not the same. They can go hand in hand, but that same goes then for relationships and purpose, self-care and purpose. So think about what it is, the feeling you're reaching for, and do something in alignment with that. You may find that you have to also re-communicate something to your community or re-verbalize to yourself, to the universe in a journal script, what it is that gives you a sense of purpose. So this is going to require you to do something unlike you've done before, but overall it will give you a greater sense of purpose. So think about as well what was happening in April of 2023 for you, the end of April, and how were you seeking purpose during that time, and what kind of community were you cultivating for yourself during that time? What gave you a sense of a meaningful life, and how's that shifted, and how's that still resonate? Pursue those things that resonate with your soul. And it may be that you have to step a bit outside your comfort zone and lead a community. You may be leading community events as well during this time, and it might be the right thing for you to do. Get people together for a common cause. And then also think about what you've released in March, end of March of 2024, this year. In the last 2 weeks, what have you been letting go of and making space? What have you been letting go of, and how do you want to fill that space? You don't have to necessarily fill it with things. You could fill it with space. Just give yourself a little blockage for having openness and time to explore yourself more. But what have you been letting go of, and what's the why behind that? Why were you letting that go? Why were you releasing that? What emotion are you hoping to feel from making that space? If you are a Cancer, sun or rising, this is a huge career shift for you. You may find that you're finally ready to take not necessarily the final step, but the next step towards a career that you love, that makes you feel like I'm dog sitting right now, and I can see one of the dogs is looking out the window. So I was gonna see if he was gonna bark. You good? Okay, so this is a huge career shift for you during this time. You may find that you know the next step you want to take towards finding a career that makes you feel bold and independent and free. And you naturally, as a Cancer, if this is especially true, if you have a Cancer rising, yeah. Am I doing these right? Yes. It's especially true if you have a Cancer rising that you are supposed to be an Aries in your career. If you have a Leo rising, it's possible that you also feel this as well. And the reason I say this is because you have Aries as your midhaven. Your midhaven is not only your recognition, your career, but basically the persona you should be in your career for the most fulfillment or for the most, at least, benefit. And I say that because, again, career is not purpose. So you will not find full sense of purpose in your career astrology, but you will find probably the most success and financial gain in your career. And then there's something to that too, which we can talk about more in a reading, that money and career are still kind of two different things. Point is, if you are a Cancer rising, this is especially true that you're supposed to be an Aries in your career. You are meant to be bold, blunt, and bold, brave, and independent in your career, showing up as someone who leads the way and just says, you know what, you guys can follow me if you want, but I'm going at my own pace. So even if you're a Cancer sun though, you're finding that you want to shift into more assertion in your career during this time. You may be taking bold action to change your career, or even bold in the way you show up in your career. You find that you want to be someone different. Naturally, as a Cancer, you probably have a tendency to be very nurturing and caring, but during this time, you can find that in your career, it's time for you to be bold and put the emotions to the side in a sense, and instead follow the heart, which I know sounds counterintuitive that you may put the emotions aside to follow the heart, but think of it this way. We always are experiencing, so to say, the full spectrum of emotions, because every single thought we have, which is a lot. I was gonna give a number, but I can't honestly remember. I think it's like we have 90,000 thoughts a day or something like that. But every single thought triggers an emotion. And so instead, put the lower emotions to the side to step into the highest desire, your highest desire during this time, what makes you feel unlimited joy and love. Follow that. Think back to last April of 2023, early May, on what you were trying to do with your career. What kind of realizations were you having? Are any of them applicable to now? And how have you changed your idea of what you want to do in your career? Also think about how you've shifted over the last 2 weeks. What are you letting go of in family life? Libra, the lunar eclipse, was in your 4th house. And so you were probably doing a lot about changing your beliefs and your attachments to your family, to your home. This could be letting go of familial wounds from the past, healing mother wounds, father wounds. This could also be letting go of your current family, whether that's your parents, your siblings, or your own children. And it doesn't mean you're like completely letting them go, but more so releasing attachment to them, releasing maybe a desire for recognition or approval from any of these parties, because that's what Libra is. They seek approval in the negative, and that is what's highlighted for us all during this time. So think about what you've been letting go of over the last 2 weeks in your family life on the theme of family, and how can you use that space to seek a greater sense of enjoyment in your career. If you are a Leo, sun, or rising, I know this like little hand gesture is making me laugh a lot because I feel over the top, but it's making it a lot easier to edit, hopefully. If you're a Leo, sun, or rising, you again have the travel bug, but not just the travel bug, you have the meaning bug. You want to see that there is something more to life, and you find that the best way to do that is to do something new and see something new. So my advice to you is to learn or do something new or go somewhere new during this time to fulfill your sense of meaning and to see the greater picture of life. This could also mean that you're going back to a religious practice, given that the 9th house is a lot about religion, philosophy, and travel. It has to do with all things unknown and grand. It's about seeing the bigger picture, seeing what's on the horizon. So what is your where are your eyes naturally falling now? What is it you want to focus on? What is giving you a sense of something greater? Put your energy into that. And also think about where in your daily life you're making space, because Libra is your third house. And so you are probably letting go of some things or obligations in your day-to-day life. You're maybe even becoming aware of what was going on in your mind on a day-to-day basis, because the third house has a lot to do with mindfulness. And so now you feel that you've practiced mindfulness and you've gotten a better grip on your mental discipline to be more aware of yourself. And now you want to take that further. So where is the further you're going to take it to? Also think back to last April and think about what themes are showing up for you in your life during that time. What was your idea of how the world works? Were you connected to a sense of what God or universe or vibration is? Or were you still feeling like that there's nothing greater and that this world is only three-dimensional? You are really cultivating your spiritual religious practice during this time, and this can give you a great sense of fulfillment. For Leo, this is mainly an internal journey, whereas some people have more so to change in their career and they got to do stuff in their life. This is a lot about having a deeper sense of fulfillment from our life experience by having a greater sense of how the world works or why we are existing for Leo. These are the themes for you. If you have a Virgo sun or rising, this is affecting your 8th house of intimacy, sexuality, but mainly shadow work. You're going deeper into yourself, and in turn this will change how you can be vulnerable with others. Oftentimes the 8th house gets very misunderstood, and people usually talk about just your intimate relations, which yes, but the root of this is about vulnerability, the idea of intimacy, which is simply to be able to show all of who you are to yourself and to another. It's vulnerability at its essence, and going into the most vulnerable parts of yourself. And so during this time, you may find that you're doing a lot of healing work with your authentic self, with your childhood self, facing your shadows, recognizing any unhealthy patterns you have. And by doing so, by doing this healing work, by charging bravely in the direction of your shadows, you can then show up better in your intimate relationships. You can show up more authentically with others. You can really tap into what your different desires are. Yes, this could mean for many, I would say two-dimensional, very simplistic horoscopes that you're changing your desires sexually, but I feel like this is a lot deeper, especially because we have Mercury and Chiron here. This has a lot to do with healing work, reassessing our wounds. And so you're probably doing a lot to face your wounds around your sense of self and how that changes how you show up with others during this time. If you have a Libra sun or rising, you are one of the stars of this eclipse because it's in your opposite Aries, which means that you have been thinking a lot over the last 2 weeks about your sense of self, and now it's time for the showdown in your one-on-one relationships. And this doesn't mean it has to be a romantic relationship. It could be a business partnership. It could be a friendship. It's any one-on-one connection. You are asserting yourself, revisiting a conversation, and having to do what you don't normally do, which is be bold and just say things how they are and speak your heart's desire to someone else. For you, this is a lot about communicating yourself in a way that you don't normally communicate yourself. You're doing something new and bold with your relationships. You could be taking this new sense of self that you found and showing it to your relationship, saying, look, this is who I now want to be. Oftentimes relationships can get frustrating because people see us for who they met us as, not who we've become. And this is a theme that Libra has probably tried to repress or ignore was happening for a long time. And so now you are here to show up as this new person, put the foot down and say, this is who I want to be. And I want you to respect that desire. And this is not necessarily just about an identity. It's not like I identify as this or this now and I want you to respect that. It's about, this is the desire that has not been fulfilled. As a Libra, you've probably been letting yourself get pushed around in some way or repressing your own desires in your relationships. You're not truly just speaking your mind and being yourself, and now's the time for you to do that. You may also be communicating past hurts, given that Chiron is here and Mercury is retrograde. Someone may have hurt you in one of your relationships and you have to go, look, this is what happened and this is what I would like going forward. I don't expect this, I expect this. And this is going to be something very important for you to do. And so also think back to 2023, late April, early May. What was going on for you in your relationships during that time? Were you starting, ending, changing who you want to be in relationships? And think about what you've been doing over the past 2 weeks for your sense of identity and how that reflects how you want to be in your relationships. If you are a Scorpio, sun or rising, this is going to be, again, similar to Taurus, shifting what you're doing with your beliefs, your psyche, and your day-to-day life. However, in the antithesis, you may actually have to do the practical thing, make the food, or fix your health. You probably, as a true Scorpio, like to dive deep into things, but you may actually have to just do the practical physical work to shift your reality. This also has to do with your sense of service to the world. So you may be actually just helping people in the world right now, and this makes you feel a sense of that you're living in your sense of self. And you may have been, over the past 2 weeks, noticing a lot of different beliefs going on in your unconscious mind. You may have been really in touch with all that, probably overwhelmed a little bit with everything that's coming up. But now's the time for you to just break it down to a simplified task. Basically, the journey for you during this eclipse season, and with the South Node in Libra and the North Node in Aries, is a lot about, here's what's going on in my head. Here's what's been going on in my head, better said. And how do I want that? Now, given that I've recognized that, how do I want it to no longer limit me? How do I want to show up in the world? How do I want to be in the world? For you, this is a lot about connecting to the world, changing your habits, changing the way you serve both yourself and others. And you may be having to do something you've never done before. You may have to revisit a place, revisit a task, revisit a doctor, so to say, because this does have to do with health, to talk about things that have been happening there that have been affecting your health, your well-being, and the well-being of others. If you are a Sagittarius, sun or rising, this has a lot to do with your love life and also just your life enjoyment. You are finding that you just need to go back to the simpler things. Learn a new creative hobby, do something fun, hang out with friends, just do what sounds enjoyable. And possibly even getting back into dating, flirting with others, just for the sake of it, during this time. You probably have been over the last 2 weeks, really contemplating what gives you a sense of a meaningful life, what gives you a sense of purpose during this time. But now you're realizing that it's not so much about the great big picture of purpose, but more so just doing the things you love to do, and not refraining from them, not being restricted and held away from them. This is, like I said, the 5th house. And so oftentimes people think of it as just the flirting realm, just romance, which it is. But the point is, it's about living in tune with a sense of fun and joy. Because this also has to do oftentimes with children and with creative expression. So oftentimes people say that you can be interacting with children right now, expecting a child, and a lot of people get freaked out by that, but you don't necessarily have to be. You could be getting in touch with your inner child. You're just doing things that feel fun and lighthearted during this time. Think about what has been going on in your life. What was going on in your life in last April, early May 2023. what were you doing for your sense of life enjoyment during that time? How were you interacting with the world more? And how did that change your sense of life enjoyment? You may be having to do something bold and different during this time, which I know as a Sagittarius, you seem like that's not necessarily something that is that hard for me, but you may also be having to do some healing here as well, because Chiron is here. And so you may be having to reflect on what has been holding you back from just enjoying life. What are your beliefs and wounds around just acting like a child in the positive, just stopping to smell the roses, having fun, playing? What are your beliefs and wounds around that? And also, is there a conversation you have to revisit with a past relationship? Maybe for you, very true that an old romantic interest could be reaching out during this time, but this is all just about life enjoyment. So don't overthink things, which I know as a Sagittarius, you probably don't normally do already, but just take it moment by moment. Can you really connect to the moment? If you are a Capricorn, sun or rising, you are doing some healing work with your family during this time. And this again could be your immediate family, your siblings, your parents, your children, your ancestral wounds. Overall, no matter what, you're doing some healing work here. In healing, in the end, your inner child. You're probably having to revisit a conversation that was hard with some sort of family member. And just basically speaking up for what you feel, which as a Capricorn, I know is not the easiest thing to do. You could also just be changing homes during this time, changing the place you live. You could be changing roommates, changing who you live with, because this does have to do with the material home. But overall, in the end, there's a lot of work you have to do here eventually with over time about what home means to you. Where do your ideas of home come from? What do you expect from a home? What do you expect from those closest to you? What do you expect from family? Setting these expectations is an important thing, and you may have been over the past 2 weeks really reflecting on anything that has been going on in your career, why you seek recognition, why you seek approval in it, why you feel the need to be liked by everyone. And this may be tied to your family life. There may be an escapism here that you have to face, which I know is not something fun to do, but very healing overall. Also think back to 2023, late April, early May, and ask yourself what was going on with your family during this time. Was there shifts happening in the place you lived? Was there shifts happening with your family members? And given that this is Aries we're talking about, there may be conversations that have to be revisited about your or someone else's aggression towards you in your family life. Because, and that's something I should have mentioned earlier for all zodiac signs, is that there's a lot of healing going on here with anger. Anger is a bodyguard for our unmet desires and wounds. And so what unmet desires and wounds are coming up during this time, and how has your anger been protecting them? Can you speak about them without getting aggressive? I will put a timestamp somewhere around here so that everyone jumps to that, because that is a key point of advice for this solar eclipse. This is about, in the end, stepping back into our heart's desires from a place of assertion, not aggression. We are healing our wounds around independence and aggression during this time. So you may find, Capricorn, that you are healing your family relationships to be more independent in your family. If you are a Aquarius, sun or rising, this has a lot to do with your daily mindfulness practice. How are you not being aware of yourself in your day-to-day life? How are you not being aware of what you're saying? Are you saying things from a place of woundedness? Can you say things from a sense of individuality? Yes, Aquarius, you're good at stepping into your quirky self and making other people feel seen and heard, but can you do so from a place of more assertion, not necessarily caught up in the identity, but following your own heart's desires? Usually your desires are pretty, I think the word is interpersonal that I'm looking for, but I feel like that sounds wrong. But usually you are more detached from your desires and you see them as not necessarily as important. so to say. You just want everyone to be happy, or you connect to some greater idea. You are an air type after all, so you're not necessarily really tuned into the heart, you're tuned into the mind. But Aries is all about the heart, leading from the heart, going from the heart. Where do you want to go? What are your desires you've been repressing? You may need to be more independent in your day-to-day life. You may find that you're constantly being aware of others. Or maybe even over the past 2 weeks, you realize you've been dogmatically connected to your beliefs, your religious beliefs, your philosophy, or just fleeing from your current environment through travel or going new places. What are you running from? I know that's a hard question, but think about it. And how can you find more comfort and strength in your day-to-day life so that you can stand strongly in your sense of self right where you are? And finally, if you are a Pisces sun or rising, you can find some money shifts and self-worth shifts during this time. You're really putting the foot down as the empathic, normally Pisces, and saying, no, this is what I deserve. I deserve a pay raise. I deserve you to treat me better. You may be letting go of attachments during this time because of the fact that you feel that things aren't living up to what you deserve. And so you could be letting things go, letting new things in. You could be asking for something better, and people may fall away just as a natural byproduct of that. You may also be receiving connections and pay raises finally that are matching your level of self-worth. You may have already done this letting go process, and now you're moving towards just stepping into your self-worth. This is, again, it could be material. You could be seeing a huge financial gain, but you could also just be, simply put, changing your sense of identity and changing your sense of self-worth. Mars and Saturn are conjunct in your sign, and so you're probably taking more responsibility for your sense of self during this time. You realize, you know what, I need to act in alignment with myself. And as a byproduct, you can find connections, money, all these things that are matching your level of worth that you are now living up to. So act in alignment with yourself, and it may feel awkward, it may feel uncomfortable, but be assertive and put the foot down with what you deserve. But don't necessarily be aggressive, just assertive. This is what I'm doing. I don't care if you necessarily approve or not, and I understand, but this is what I need. That's all the horoscopes for the solar eclipse happening on April 8th in Aries in April of 2024. So let me know if you have any other questions in the comments below, and if you want a personalized horoscope for this event, then book a reading in the link in the description below. Now, I will be offering horoscopes ahead of time for the month of May, starting now. So get in touch with me via email or leave a comment below, or book a reading and we can talk about it, because I do want all of those who order horoscopes to do a reading first, so I really know what is uniquely happening in your life and tailor your horoscope to you and your desires. These horoscopes will be 20 minutes long, and they will be sent to your email for you to view and rewatch with key journal prompts and key points that are going to affect you based off of your unique birth chart. Not just your sun, moon, and rising, not just your rising, but your unique chart and how each month will affect you. So if you want that, book a reading for now, and we can set up so that next month you are ready for your horoscope. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Sincerely hope you enjoyed, especially because I was frankly exhausted yesterday filming, and so I think my interpretations were still cohesive and clear. The information that I was hearing in my head was clear. I don't know if it came out that way. I hope so that it did, and if not, just book a reading and we can dive deeper. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for more videos breaking down the current and birth chart stars. Once again, my name's Isabelle, and from my heart to yours, namaste.